Good morning, everybody. Chester ARP Church Devotional Podcast. Thanks for being with us. I'm Clint Davis. Mitch brings us in. Let's go.
Gives me grace for every trial. Feeds me with the living bread.
All right, the Lord does feed us with the living bread. Jesus says man does not live by bread alone, but by the very words that come out of the mouth of God. As we come to this morning to our devotional podcast, we read the Word of God, and we're in Genesis chapter 31. This is what we read in the beginning of Genesis 31 with Jacob separating from his father-in-law Laban. Now Jacob heard what Laban's sons were saying. Jacob has taken all that was our father's and has built his wealth from what belonged to our father. And Jacob saw from Laban's face that his attitude toward him was not the same. The Lord said to him, "Go back to the land of your ancestors and to your family, and I will be with you." Jacob had Rachel and Leah called to the field where his flocks were. And he said to them, "I can see your father's face, that his attitude toward me is not the same as before. But the God of my father has been with me. You know that with all my strength I have served your father, and that he has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. But God has not let him harm me. If he said, 'The spotted sheep will be your wages,' then all the spotted were born. If he said, 'The streaked sheep will be your wages,' then all the sheep that were born were streaked. God has taken away your father's herds and given them to me. And when the flocks were breeding, I saw in a dream that the streaked, spotted, and speckled males were mating with the females. And in that dream the angel of God said to me, 'Jacob.' 'Here I am,' I said. And he said, 'Look up and see. All the males that are mating with the flocks are streaked, spotted, and speckled. For I have sent all that Laban has been doing to you. Or I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you poured oil on the stone marker and made a solemn vow to me. Get up, leave this land, and return to your native land.' Then Rachel and Leah answered him, 'Do we have any portion or our inheritance in our father's family? Are we not regarded by him as outsiders? For he has sold us and has certainly spent our purchase price. In fact, all the wealth that God has taken away from our father belongs to us and to our children. So do whatever God has said to you.' So Jacob got up, put his children and his wives on the camels. He took all the livestock and possessions, and he acquired in Paddan Aram, and he drove his herds to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. When Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole her father's household idols, and Jacob deceived Laban and the Aramean, not telling him that he was fleeing. And he fled with all his possessions, crossed the Euphrates, and headed for the hill country of Gilead." Now, that's a great story, because what we find here is that if you're just reading along like we read yesterday, you wonder, Jacob was deceptive in a sense. It looked like at the end of chapter 30, when he took the different flocks and he hit them up, put all these pieces of wood in the water, and he took the speckled males and had them mate with his goats, etc. And then all of a sudden, all these different shades of sheep were being born and goats were being born, and as a result of that, they were his livestock was increasing and Laban's livestock was decreasing. Laban's wealth was decreasing. It seemed like Jacob was being deceptive. Now we get to chapter 31. We hear, as Paul Harvey used to say, the rest of the story. Laban had been tricking Jacob all along. He had taken, he took all the speckled. He said, "Jacob, you can have the speckled, but let me take all the speckled males and put them in my herd. So when I put them in my herd, they'll all produce, and the strong ones will be in my herd and not yours, Jacob. And so I'm gonna increase my wealth, and you're going to decrease your wealth." Well, it backfired on Laban. And so as a result of that, Laban began to lose. But God saw and heard that was what was going on in Jacob's life. He heard and saw the situation, and he chose to bless Jacob. And so God had Jacob's back. I think that's an important lesson for us. We're going to be in situations where people mistreat us. We're going to be in situations in life where people aren't fair to us. We're going to be in situations where people try to get wealthy off of us. We're going to be in situations where people don't have our best interest at heart. If you've lived any length of time in your life, you know that is the case. We're learning that at my house. My daughter is learning that with school and some sports that she's in, that things don't always go your way, and things don't always go the way you expect or the way you think they should, or they don't always go the way that you think are fair, and you don't understand what's going on. You don't get why things are going the way they are, but you just have to trust the Lord in it. And so Jacob here shows us that even in those situations, God sees us where we are. He says to his wives, Rachel and Leah, "Listen, I can see your father's attitude has changed toward me. And I can see, what he's done as I have served him. He's cheated me out of my wages and changed my wages 10 times. So 10 different times over the years, he's cheated Jacob out of his wages or changed his wages in midstream. Well, who wants to work for a man like that? Let's not forget that Laban deceived Jacob on his wedding night, right? He gave him Leah after he worked 7 years in Jacob's service to marry Rachel. Came time for marriage, he switched the brides on Jacob. And then Jacob had to work 7 more years. After he had worked his time, now he is ready to go. And God said, it is time for you to go. I've heard your concern. I've seen your situation, and the Lord has blessed him nonetheless. His father-in-law has turned his back on Jacob. Jacob's brothers-in-laws have turned their back on Jacob and his family. And the wives, Rachel and Leah, say, our father has basically considered us outsiders and kicked us out because of their jealousy for you. And as a result of that, they are living in a difficult situation, and it is time for them to get up and go. Sometimes it's just, you just got to leave the situation you're in. You don't have to stay in a situation where you're miserable, and sometimes God calls us to do that, right? Get up and leave. And there's wisdom in that. And so these folks are in a difficult situation. It's unfair. It's unjust. And God says, you got to get up and you got to go. And maybe he's saying that to you, maybe in a situation in your life. We've got to trust him. We've got to walk with him. We got to know that he's going to bless us in the midst of it. Our call is to be obedient, and we follow him. We do so in faith, but also we need to be evaluating, is it time for us to leave the situation or walk away or break this relationship and get rid of this toxic situation? Those are good questions for you to ask today from this story. You guys take care. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow.